got to mention this, gentlemen. America's Heroes Group welcomes our new panelist and advisory board member, the Honorable former Governor of Illinois, none other than George H. Ryan Sr., family man, Korean War veteran, and, of course, the governor who abolished the death penalty, and we're so pleased to have him as part of our team. Governor, how are you?
I'm good, Cliff. How are you doing?
Good, good. Thank you so much. Also in our studio in the round table, we have Rochelle Crump, as you know what she does, and we're so pleased to have her here. Attorney Ernesto Borges, Consular, how you doing?
Good afternoon, Cliff.
Good, and of course Sean Claiborne. Sean, how you doing today?
All right.
Good, 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 good. Governor, thank you so much for being with us, and we appreciate your ability to and your desire, of course, to help out with our events and the things that we do in this organization, because of course you are a veteran, of course, in Korean War, but one of the other great things, of course, that you did, that a lot of us certainly feel, is of course you're abolishing the Illinois death penalty. But thank you so much. Tell us what you feel as a veteran.
Well, let me say, first of all, Cliff, thanks for including me in your group. I'm honored and hope I can contribute to what we can do for veterans in Illinois and across the country. You've got a good organization there, and I hope that I can be a part of helping what we do here.
We know you will.
I want to make it clear that I was in Korea from 54 to 55, and it was after the war was over. So I was there when the fighting was done and kind of doing a little of the cleanup work.
That's the place to be at the time. I think that your timing worked out well, because, oh my goodness, that was something else.
30-some thousand, I think.
Yeah, Consul. Right. So that
I'm here.
Yeah, you're here. You're nevertheless, you are a veteran, and that's many of us are veterans. In fact, a majority of veterans are non-combat. Yeah.
Except me,
Yeah, exactly. This whole situation, I got to say this just for a moment, although it doesn't have anything to do, but the fact that you abolished the death penalty, just tell us how you determined to do that.
Well, it was really a no-brainer, Cliff. The death penalty was fraught with error and corruption, and if you're going to have a penalty or a law that takes somebody's life, you better have one that works perfectly. And the death penalty in Illinois, and I doubt any place, frankly, works perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided that if we didn't have a law that worked perfectly, we probably shouldn't have the law at all. I think that life in prison is probably worse than death, frankly. And I think the people, it doesn't act as a deterrent. The death penalty doesn't. There was always that proposition that maybe people were afraid to do anything because of the death penalty, but that's not true, and it hasn't been for years. But in Illinois, we had the death penalty, and it was we had 25 people on death row. 12 of them were exonerated by the courts, and 13 were executed. It was kind of like flipping a coin, I guess. And when the Porter case broke, the first year that I was governor, my wife and I were sitting in the mansion in Springfield watching the local Chicago news, and we see this little guy come out from prison all smiles and grins because he'd just been freed from death row after 15 or 16 years as an innocent man. And I turned to my wife and said, how does that happen in America? How do we keep people on death row for 15 years and then tell them, well, you're really innocent, go on home? And I became concerned about it, and I continued to look at it over the time, and the Tribune did a whole series on the flaws that were in the death penalty propositions and the things that happened. Unqualified trial lawyers handling cases, black individuals and defendants convicted and sentenced to death by all white juries. Just things that didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. And then, of course, the error in getting to the death penalty through the trial situation. And the best case I can talk about, I think, is the O.J. Simpson case. We all saw that, watched it over the time of that trial. The errors there was in handling of the evidence and the things that pointed to what could be and couldn't be. And so I just looked at it and said, well, if we had an airplane that flew from Chicago to Boston 3 days a week and crashed every day, would we stop flying that airplane, or would we just keep flying? And I thought that's what we had with the death penalty. We had people that were innocent and sitting on death row, and still have, by the way, 10, 15, 20 years, only to be told that, look, you're innocent and you can go on home now. Of course, their families are gone. They have no means of support. Things are just, their whole life is discombobulated, and they're not able to function like they should, and it's all because of the death penalty.
You know, and
so I just decided that I tried to correct it, Cliff, to make it so it was perfect, but I couldn't. The politics of it just wouldn't work that way. I mean, nobody wanted to get involved. They don't care about it, and so I just said, well, as long as I'm governor, there won't be anybody that's going to be sent to death. I called a moratorium first, and then attempted to improve the system so we didn't execute any innocent people. But it was an election year, and of course, everybody was afraid to touch the death penalty. So I then just said, well, we're going to take everybody off a death row and put them in jail for the rest of their life. Although during my tenure, I did execute one person, and he was a pretty bad guy, and the whole group, there was 4 of them, but there was only one that was executed in the Corkialis case. But it was one of those things that I looked at and said, any laws that we had, if they were this bad, we wouldn't try and enforce them about anything else. And why would we do it when you're going to take somebody's life? Let's get rid of this thing.
You know, you did say one thing.
They eventually got it done after I left office. They eventually abolished it.
Right. You did say one thing, Governor, that interested me, because some people feel the same way, that actually life in prison could be even worse. You know, if you get a young man whomever, a young person who is sentenced to life in prison, well, that's
sure.
Yeah, that's terrible. One of our members here, of course, and you'll meet everybody when you come in, Attorney Ernesto Borges. Constable,
Yes.
Do you want to say something about that?
Yes. Good afternoon, Governor. And
Hi.
we've met before, and your son used to work with me at the Illinois State Board of Elections over the summer, years and years ago, when you were Secretary of State. But I want to ask you something. Do you believe in the death penalty, or do you believe that what bothers me with it is that the standard for a criminal matter is beyond a reasonable doubt, whether it's a capital crime
I
or
was
whether
a believer of the death penalty for my whole career.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember in 1976, I think it was, when the Supreme Court ruled it unconstitutional, and we put together another law to make it constitutional.
Yeah.
And I was on the floor of the Illinois House as a member there, and I voted green.
Right.
And I think it was a fellow by the name of Bob Mann, who was a Democrat, got up and looked over and said, how many of you that are voting green here today to reinstate the death penalty would be willing to throw the switch? And I thought about that for a minute and said, I don't think I'd like to throw the switch. I don't think I could.
Bob
I
Mann.
don't want to be the
I could do
executioner.
that.
Yeah, man was from Hyde Park.
And that's what started kind of the things working in my brain a little bit.
Yeah.
But I went ahead and voted for it anyway, and they kept it on.
Yeah.
And then little did I know, some 20 years later or more, that I would be the governor of the state and have the opportunity to do what I did. But I thought we could correct the system, and when I found out that it wasn't correctable, I said, let's do what we can to abolish it, and I still feel that way about it.
And I do too, and I'm just so glad you did that. And you mentioned some of the reasons why it's still a problem. You know, when you talk about who's sitting on these juries, for instance, and some of the other major problems. We are just so pleased, Governor, that you are going to be with our new advisory board member. Tell us what your feelings were about being a veteran.
About being what?
A veteran. You were an Army veteran.
Well, it goes back a long time.
Yeah,
That
I
was
know.
back in 1954 to 56.
56.
I was in the United States Army.
Right. But you're still a veteran, Governor.
Well, yeah, I know. Well, well, it was an experience in my life. I probably could have done without, but one that I think I benefited from and learned a little bit about life when I was there. But the military is, it's a great place to learn a lot of things about life as a young man and a young woman. And I was fortunate enough to get some breaks, and I had a special deal when I was in the Army. I was had gone to 1 year of pharmacy school and got drafted, and went to Korea, where they trained me as a clerk typist, and they sent me with a company that was to an Air Force base in Kunsan, Korea, to maintain the airstrip. It was a construction company. And when I got there, the Air Force had a hospital on the base, but they didn't have a pharmacist. And so they did what they called SCARWOF with me, special categories of the Army reassigned with the Air Force. I lived with the Army. I went to barracks in the Army every night, but I worked all day and was under the command basically of the Air Force. And it wasn't a bad gig. It was a pretty good gig.
Hey, Governor, can I ask you something?
Sure.
Where was your mess hall? Because the Air Force always ate better than the Army.
No, listen, I want to tell you. When I'd take care of all of the cooks down in
Yeah. Smart.
And when the fresh milk came in and the things came in, when I'd go back at night, there'd maybe a quart of milk under my pillow or something under the bed. Good care.
Governor,
we don't want to. Oh, go right ahead. Yeah.
Governor, this is Sean Claiborne.
Yeah, sure.
The financial specialist on the team.
Pardon?
This is Sean Claiborne. My question is, how did the military and your experience in Korea change your view of the world? So,
how did what?
How did your experience in Korea change your view of the world?
Well, listen, when I went to Korea, it was pretty crude. It was a pretty crude place. I was just a young guy and not very old, and had a big eye opener as a fellow that came from Kankakee and led a pretty good life. Didn't understand what those kind of conditions were like, and it helped me, I think, grow up a little bit pretty fast.
Listen, as Ernesto mentioned that the Air Force got better food, but of course you might have been really be helpful because you were a pharmacist. Did you do anything?
Well, I wasn't a pharmacist at the time, but when I ran the pharmacy, they didn't have any pharmacists. I was just a 1 year student.
Okay.
Of course, I've been in the pharmacy business all my life.
Yeah, I know.
We had pharmacies in the family for years.
So what did you do then relative to that? Were you able to help people with?
Sure. Yeah. Sick call every day and suspend. Even gave shots. Helped the doctor. Sometimes, a couple of times, I used to scrub in on a couple of appendectomies. We had a doctor there that was from Northwestern University and graduated and was a doctor for the base. And we became close friends. And I got to do a lot of things that I probably never would have been able to do in my life.
It sounds like that TV series.
Chance to say the TV with Hawkeye.
Exactly,
and, what was the name of that TV series? MASH.
MASH,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, that sounds like it. It's great. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes, go right ahead,
please.
Okay.
This is Rochelle Crump, and I know in your time that there were still separated male from female barracks. And so what type of interaction did you have with females during that time?
We didn't have any females. That was back in the 50s, early 50s. There wasn't. We didn't have any females.
None on your post.
But I'll tell you one of the deals that I did that we did have a problem with, and I don't know if I can talk about it on the radio, but I'll try.
Sure, go ahead.
There was a lot of venereal disease floating around, and they tried to separate those that had it from those that didn't, and tried to make separate facilities for those people. And I got into that fight with the commanders on the base. They wanted to paint the facilities red, and anybody that had gonorrhea had to use a red facility.
Really?
And of course we fought that and beat it. So it was pretty embarrassing for those fellows that had to do that.
And no hot lips Houlihan though in the
Yeah,
so
no,
that-
I
that's
didn't
right.
see any hot lips Houlihan.
But but so did the soldiers? I mean, did they go to the villages down there in
Sure.
South Korea, and so they had
Sure,
This
yeah,
all
but
Korean women. They just didn't see the
It was
American
so
ones.
Yeah.
crude,
Yeah. Yeah,
The entertainment generally came to the base.
Yeah. Yeah, the entertainment. I like the way the governor says that.
yeah.
Well, that's right.
A little euphemism there.
Absolutely. Well, Governor, again, thank you so much for your service and all the great things you've done as a veteran and as an elected official, and also.
Well, now let me ask you, Cliff,
Yeah,
as
sure.
a new member of this group,
Yes.
I want to work with everybody, but I'm kind of anxious to see what I can do to get going, and I need a little direction from you folks.
Oh, you
Tell
get it.
me what you want me to do.
Yes. You will definitely get all of that information. Glenda Smith, our executive producer, is preparing a package for you, and you'll be getting that very soon, Governor. And we're going to keep you as busy as you want to be.
I
all
can,
right?
I can give him the first pointer. Just
Yeah,
be the
yeah.
best man you can be.
Be the best man he can be. That's right. That's right. He'll do that. So you'll get.
Sounds like an army slogan.
Yeah. That's right. That's right. That's
we
right.
can be an army of one.
Well, everybody's army in the room, right?
Now, are you people all remote like I am, or are you in the
No,
studio?
we're in the studio.
Yeah.
Oh,
We're
well, I got to do that. I'm in Springfield.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, yeah. But you'll be able to get us here in the studio. You'll be with us, I'm sure. But we just think it's great that you are going to be helpful because of your background and all the things that you've done, not only as a soldier, as a veteran, I should say, but also as the governor who's done so much. So we are very happy, and America's Heroes Group welcomes our new panelist and advisory board member, the Honorable former Governor of Illinois, George H.
Thanks
Ryan
very much.
Sr.
Okay.
Thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon.
Take care,
Okay,
Governor.
thanks, fellas. Everybody, thank you.
Bye-bye.
All righty.
Yeah. Governor, Lieutenant Governor, and Secretary of State.
Yeah, Secretary of State. Yeah,
Yeah. I met him when he was Lieutenant Governor.
Right.
Yeah. One thing that that I can also talk about with his experience is that he learned how to be a pharmacist or improve his skills in the military, which a lot of people can take advantage of today.
That's true. He did say that. Yeah, that's exactly right. Okay, we are pleased to be with us, and stay with us now. We'll be back with more on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.